2 years ago, Halton, Netox, Caverion, Nokia, Kone, YIT and VTT, with the help of Business Finland, established the KEKO ecosystem. KEKO has aimed to create high-performing and dynamic ecosystems that define the future of the built environment. We all deserve safe, more fluent and productive buildings. To achieve this goal, the KEKO has studied smart building, future services and platform economy. In addition, together with numerous SMEs and startups, KEKO has developed its ecosystem thinking and piloted future-proof solutions. Jump to the next slide. And as you can see from the agenda, tonight is the way to find out what we have achieved at KEKO, what we have learned from the process, how far KEKO has come in achieving its vision, a global standard for smart building platforms, and finally, where we should turn our attention in the future. I am Tomi Kaukinen, and I will be your host for today's KEKO Now webinar. You can, of course, comment and post questions in the chat window during the event, where KEKO members are ready to participate in the discussion. Also, questions will be raised throughout this webinar, so be sure to discuss what we learned in KEKO together in the chat. If you want to ask questions or post to social media, please use the hashtags on the screen, KEKO Now, ! And KEKO Ecosystem. So lean back, enjoy our shared journey into the platform ecosystem world. Our journey begins under the guidance of VTT researcher Arto Wallin. So lean back and welcome on stage, Arto. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In next 15 minutes, I will introduce you some of the key lessons learned from the KEKO project. I will take you through theoretical findings to some practical managerial insights and back to the theory. I have two main themes today. First, finding a common language, and second is the lessons learned from the platform design and strategy. Let's start with finding a common language. Recent study with the German entrepreneurs and executives indicated that only 15% of the executives could really say what platform economy is. And 1/4 didn't even know what is the digital platform. So this clarifies the challenge of speaking about platforms. And also in this project we have had more than 90 professionals working together with different backgrounds. And the challenge is that we have technical, managerial, academic people, and we need to talk the same language. So I'll start today with introducing what is platform and the complexity of the term platform, and is there actually something special in it? Because platforms come in many forms. There's no single kind of good definition, but there are many definitions for the platforms. And you can start thinking the platforms from the old market square. We have the picture on the bottom there from Tori of Oulu. And the market square, that's actually a platform where buyers and sellers come together to exchange goods. But there are many different kind of platforms. There are social media platforms and all different purposes for the platforms. There are different boundaries of the platforms, internal versus external, closed versus open, niche and all-round platforms. Some are purely physical, some are purely digital, and something in between. But something that is very characteristic for the platforms, and I talk about multi-sided platforms in particular, is the network effects. That's something that differentiates platforms from the many other kind of pipeline-based businesses. In multi-sided platforms, the network effects, you can see it when there's a demand side and supply side. An impact of the users on the one side, what is the impact from them to the other side? That's the network effect and cross-site network effect. So if we take the market square example, if new user, consumer comes to the market square, what is the impact of the new consumer to the supply side, so the sellers? Or if the new fish seller comes to the market square, what is the impact or added value of the new fish seller to the consumers? That's cross-site network effects, and that differentiates the platforms from the many other types of businesses. Okay, then we are developing platform ecosystems as well. So what is platform ecosystem? That's also a pretty challenging term. Different people mean different things. But you can take, in systems thinking, you can basically zoom in and zoom out. So you can take the narrow view, you see the platform, technological platform, for example, and stakeholders interacting on the platform. That's fine, but you can also zoom out and you start seeing all the different actors there that are influenced or are influencing indirectly on the platform. So platform ecosystem, it depends how small or large view you want to take. Okay, now I go to the platform design and strategy. 6 lessons learned. I will tell you purpose, core interaction, the market, roles, alignment, and strategy. Let's start with the purpose. Winners in the business aren't the ones who do the most things. The winners are the ones who do the most important things. So when designing the platform, you should start from the why. Start with the purpose. When you find the purpose, it's easier to decide how you want to do it and finally what needs to be done. Second, core interaction. Aim to identify a single core interaction that consistently generates high value to users. So what is the core interaction? That's specific to platform businesses. Core interaction is a set of actions that you need different sides of the platform to engage in repeatedly. So something that they do repeatedly. And it is much better to identify a single core interaction that is strong, that generates high value, than to have many of those. 3, know the market. It is the same for all the business, but as well in platform, it's very crucial. Steve Blank says that, famous startup guru says that, type of market changes everything. And type of platform market defines what are available design choices and strategic options. And there are many different types of the market. There are already existing markets where you are developing new platform. There are clone markets, resegmented markets. There are different level of maturity of these markets. And then there's totally new markets, which is actually quite rare. So quite often there is already some kind of market already existing. Then there's different levels of regulation, local versus global, different levels of network effects and different market structures and different kind of competitive dynamics in these markets. So you have to know very detailed what the market is that you are aiming at. 4, decide the roles. There are 2 key roles in the platform business. You need to decide who's the owner of the platform and who's the platform manager. There can be one or multiple of those, and they can be same or they can be different. So owner can be the manager or that can be separate role. But it's crucial that you define these roles in the very early phase. Otherwise, the development is very challenging. 5, align platform with the platform ecosystem. So if those 2 roles, owner and provider, were the kind of a key building blocks of the organizational structure of the platform ecosystem, then there are different sides on top of it and many stakeholders. So that's the organizational structure. But then you need to align the technical architecture and the governance of the platform with the structure. If these are misaligned, it doesn't work. So the technical architecture is something, It's a specification of interfaces, and it enables modularity of the platform, or modularity of the ecosystem. And the governance, that's about decision rights, so who makes decisions, both strategic and operational decisions. It's about control mechanisms, what should and what shouldn't be done, what kind of behavior is penalized or supported. And it's also about pricing policies, so how do you build incentives through pricing? And finally, 6, be open to emergent strategy. So when you start thinking of the platform business, it is good to have strategy. It's good to have a plan that gets you started. But don't stick on predefined plan, which can be a stable fantasy, but respond to an evolving reality. Platform strategy, and that's a very complex thing. It's more complex than traditional strategy. Here is kind of a simplification of this complex phenomenon, but there's temporal dimension. So strategy is different when you enter the market, when you start reaching the critical mass, when you start expansion scaling, when you become leader, and when you have to renew the platform. There's also relational dimension. You have to think the strategy regarding demand side, supply side, other sides, also rivals, competitive strategy, and new entrants. There's also functional dimension, which is more limited view on strategy, for example, how you onboard different users on the platform. These were the 6 key lessons for today. Start with why, identify core interaction, understand the market, decide ownership and management roles, align governance, architecture and structure, and be open to emergent strategy. I hope that this gives you some kind of a starting point for listening next excellence presentations. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Arto. That was very to the point, short and concise, and actually, especially like the single core interaction. It's used by a lot of startups. One of the biggest startups, Facebook, used one of those when they developed it into more a viral product. But next, we'll get in touch with the business world. And Anu Hakseen, Halton's building segment director, will open up Halton's motivation to join the KEKO ecosystem. She will answer the following questions. What smart real estate means to Halton, and how Halton sees the power of ecosystems. Anu, the stage is yours. I'm going to run off first.
Thank you, Tommy. Great to be here. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Great topic, smart buildings in these pandemic times, and also power of ecosystems. So I will go through a bit about how we at Halton see smart buildings, then about our kind of what KEKO has brought to us, and also kind of lastly, how do we kind of, what's the power of ecosystems in general in smart building scheme. So smart buildings, we at Halton, so our mission is to enable people's well-being indoors. And we believe that buildings really must be smart to achieve that. So during pandemic times, so feeling of safety, that's a crucial element of well-being. And with smart or intelligent ventilation systems, we are able to ensure that enough fresh air is supplied to the spaces, so reducing the risk of airborne infections. And also by doing that, so we are able to make sure that the indoor environmental conditions are allowing well-being of people. But well-being of people naturally is important, but that's not enough. We also need to care about the well-being of the surrounding environment. So thinking of energy consumption or reducing energy consumption, thinking of utilizing renewable energy sources. So those are kind of ways that so in those, the smartness of buildings is truly crucial. So by having intelligent algorithms, not only in ventilation, heating, cooling, but also in other systems is truly a way to improve the whole sustainability of buildings. Also, well-being is about finding ways to improve the personal and work life of building users by fulfilling their needs and also desires in a better way. So new ideas kind of coming from the smart building concepts and combining data from different sources can do this in a much better way than in conventional buildings. And this is naturally good not only for the users that are feeling better, but for their employers as well. So in terms of better productivity and better engagement. And that makes it also a better business for the building owners who are likely to receive higher rents and have a longer staying tenants in their buildings. So what actually KEKO has brought to us? So we were totally excited to join the KEKO research project as a principal consortium member with the great companies of KONE, YIT, Caverion, Nokia, and Netox to see how the ecosystems can actually accelerate the adoption of smart building technology and the business models built on top of it. We have felt that the systematic cooperation with startups and SMEs has been a great source of new ideas for service opportunities. Especially the innovation competitions have brought kind of, to our knowledge, companies that could help us to achieve our mission of sustainability, well-being and safety. Especially, or for example, by combining our ideas with the ideas of startups for instance, ventilation energy optimization. In all ecosystems, it's important that the data is flowing efficiently between the parties. And for that, it's been really important for us to actually test the methods of sharing data between different platforms and different consortia and other partners during the project. And truly, KEKO has been a good and has offered a great way to do that in a kind of organized, safe, trustful manner. And we have been able to utilize that and will be able to utilize that in the future globally. We have worked with the Caverion on clarifying the value creation of smart and sustainable buildings too during the project. And the findings were actually quite interesting. So we are able to affect the building value with smart technology. So it comes from two sources mainly. So by analyzing the cash flow that buildings generate. So we are able to affect the net operating income. So both the incoming cash flows in terms of higher rents, better occupancy of the buildings, but also by decreasing the costs, operating cost of energy, or then costs related to kind of flexibility or unflexibility of the buildings. And on the other hand, so we are able to reduce the risk related to the investment. So kind of decreasing the discount rate by having kind of a lower risk due to the better demand for the buildings and also kind of higher net operating incomes. In addition, so study of the new business models and ecosystem business has been valuable to us. So partly because of that, we've been able to launch an offering where energy savings in ventilation systems are sold as a service. So in practice, our customers and we are sharing the benefits of the reduced energy consumption thanks to our intelligent ventilation systems. And this has been truly a kind of a success for us. So we have already many customers in Europe on board and are onboarding currently new customers in US and Asia too. Then about what ecosystems can do for smart building adoption and success. So smart buildings or in kind of smart real estate, we need players, different types of players that can contribute to the kind of different perspectives of smartness. So there's no single provider or even a kind of a few providers who can do or tackle all of the needs of different stakeholders during the building life cycle. And therefore, ecosystems are crucial for smart buildings to succeed in a large scale. In addition, so open ecosystems can truly create kind of new connections between new types of partners, leading totally to kind of novel ideas on how stakeholders can be served in unexpected ways and that create unexpected value as well. These kind of connections would not happen when individual companies cooperate. It's also important to remember that ecosystems to succeed, all of the participants need to get clear value out of it, either directly or indirectly. This is often a kind of obstacle in the beginning of the ecosystems and need to be tackled in order to achieve the critical mass. Without the critical mass, the ecosystem as such won't be viable. And in built environments, so that's a challenge sometimes because there's a lot of parties involved during the building life cycle. So during KEKO, we have at Halton tested ways for ecosystem collaboration and different technologies in our Pasila Tripla Mercury new headquarter office that we claim is the world's safest workplace. We have, for instance, measured and controlled 6 different air quality parameters in order to make the workplace the safest place, even during pandemic. We have combined our demand-based ventilation system with Haltian empathic building user interface for making the building or the office life smoother for users. We have also connected that with Helvar's lighting controls during the project. And we have shared the collected data with KONE's KEKO experimental cloud platform Keppi. And through these examples and experimentations, so we are truly we have increased our capability and readiness to work with both established players and startups in open ecosystems to create even better user value, value for companies and for society as a whole. So we truly believe in smartness, in well-being, in sustainability, in built environment, to create great value for all stakeholders. And open ecosystems are truly crucial for creating that. So KEKO has been a great start for us, and we all need to continue with our efforts. Thank you.
come on stage here. Thank you, Anu, for those examples. And ecosystems really have the power to transform businesses and provide business opportunities for us all. And over the last 2 years, Geckos' goal has been to create 100 use cases, 20 concept ideas, and 12 proof of concepts involving a wide range of SMEs and startups. Next, in the fireside chat, we will discuss how well Gekko achieved these goals. But to get in the mood, let's first watch an inspiring video of how Gekko approached the smart building solutions here at Maria 01. Roll it.
Maria 01 is an old, historic and listed building, so making any modifications in the space can be quite challenging.
Maria 01 is a campus filled with creative high-tech companies and startups. Over 1,300 employees span over 20,000 square meters across 5 different buildings. The first public hospital in Helsinki operated in these buildings in the 19th century. The hospital was closed down in 2014. Today, Maria 01 is a testbed for new digital solutions and their applications in buildings.
Proximi.io is a technology-agnostic platform for indoor positioning and indoor navigation. We cover the areas that are missing from Google Maps, so that's inside of large buildings and private areas outdoors, such as theme parks. Here at Maria 01, we've implemented first-of-a-kind hands-free navigation solution. So the idea is that a user can search for a destination with their phone, and then they are guided there through smart lighting.
Turn slight left, then you will reach your destination in 56 meters.
In Maria, we designed and trained a machine learning system to predict the calmness of spaces. We utilize the available data sources that are accessible here in this campus. And now, with that information, users can choose the spaces they want to use based on the calmness or activity for the couple next hours.
KEKO Ecosystem researches effective new ways to collect and process building data to create practical solutions for smart building users. Soltech's robots are also connected to Nokia's private wireless network. They are being tested to be used in logistics inside the building.
Luckily, most modern solutions utilize wireless technologies like Nokia's private network that we have here. So as long as we have connectivity everywhere, that's all we need. From this perspective, this is an ideal test bed. If we can make this building smart with new solutions, we can do it in every building.
Maria 01's encouraging start has already sparked new expansion plans that will turn the campus area into one of Europe's biggest startup and technology hubs in the near future.
Maria 01 rocks. Now it's time to move to the fireside chat. Today we have on site connectivity expert from Tuuli Ahava from Nokia. We have innovation platform expert Jukka-Pekka Partanen from KONE. We have shared spaces expert Anders Stenbeck from YIT and UX researcher Maria Nuutinen from VTT. I think I mixed you up, sorry about that. But let's start, Maria. I'm going to change a little bit of my position here and welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
This is a 25-minute round, so stay tuned. What has your role, organization been in Gekko, and what is the biggest takeaway in Gekko for you?
Okay, VTT, so Technical Research Center of Finland, was taking care of the project management as a coordinator, and we were the main research organization partner in Gekko.
Got it.
And about takeaway, Arto was already telling about many important issues that we have learned. VTT is a very active partner in many ecosystems, and therefore it's really important that we learn what they are, how they operate, and how we could support them. Just to mention one thing, to really benefit from the platform economy, we have to learn new ways to integrate different expertise areas. And design thinking is a very good approach for that. And although we notice that there is something that still needs to be developed further, for example, we should find ways to better support the co-creation in ecosystems and support ecosystem practice to emerge.
You mentioned the design here, and I think we'll move to the UX perspective here.
Yeah.
So how and what methods were you using to identify user needs?
Okay, we were using this design thinking methodology as a kind of guiding generic approach to integrate the technology, business, and human perspectives in the creative design projects. And actually, to gather the user data, we utilize different methods such as observations, interviews, workshops, design ropes. And then to analyze and identify the user needs, we utilize, for example, stakeholder network mapping and user experience vision and goal approach that is based on the design experience design. And still further, in order to understand how the user needs are developing in the future, we utilize foresight methods. So trend analysis and experiential foresight, for example.
So KEKO has definitely expanded your understanding of user needs. And what results in detail were you getting in this?
Yeah, so plenty. Just to mention that we identified over 100 use cases in 24 different themes. For example, sustainability, access control, design. Also, we defined those user experience visions and goals for the key stakeholders of the smart building life cycle, and defined for the developers how we can enhance or support their experience when they are utilizing our innovation platform. So recognize the touch point the developers and the platform have and support there.
Very important things.
Yeah. And still, perhaps, to my mind, one of the most interesting findings was that actually the different stakeholders and their problems are very much linked to each other. So instead of just focusing on the one use case, you should kind of take a more systemic view. So how those needs and targets are connected together. And for that, I think that this kind of ecosystemic and platform thinking and working we have in KEKO is very important.
Let's give some voices to the other ones
Sorry.
here. And no, this was very good stuff. We have only 25 minutes, a lot of substance to cover. So let's jump to the next challenge competitions and innovation platform service. Jussi-Pekka, can you tell us about the results of the user research, how they were utilized in the challenge competition?
All right, thanks. Okay, like we heard from Maria, I think it's, if you think about the way you develop innovations in a modern environment, or let's put it this way, that if we think how we did it previously, is that we developed something in a chamber, in a dark chamber, then threw it over the wall and hope that some magic happened. So obviously we don't do that anymore. So we heard that we are working closely together with the users through the user researchers. And this means building users, facility managers, building owners, and so forth. So we started heavily by looking into the user problems and then formulating those challenges, not as technical challenges, but as challenges that those end users have. So eventually basically resulting in a product or a solution where someone is saying, wow, this is something I really want, instead of saying, okay, this is another IT system that's just taking away my time. So we basically had those user researchers doing upfront research, then kind of creating those challenge definitions, so to say, that would really aim at solving those problems that the end users have. And then finally, when the challenges were ongoing, then we had the user researchers to continuously kind of be as sparring partners towards the kind of startups who were working on it, making sure that the end user approach is always kind of the thing that we are working on, not just some nice technology.
I love to hear that, because technology has always felt like it's distancing, and now we're finally starting to understand that there's a human behind the screen.
Yeah, hopefully, step by step.
Yeah, it's coming. It's great to hear. But what kind of enabler was the Keppi innovation platform in developing this?
Right. So actually, this kind of comes back to what Arto said, and quite often when we run this kind of challenge competitions, we see startups and companies coming up with nice solutions. So they have, for example, some sort of solution where they bring sensors, they bring some AI technology to process that sensor data, and then maybe an application or some sort of a website where you can actually do some nice things with that data. But that is kind of a challenge, because that's an end-to-end product. And like we heard from Arto, that's not really kind of what platform business is about. That's a kind of a point solution that does not, so how would I say, like in that equation, 1 + 1 is 2, but we are looking for a platform business where 1 + 1 is more than 2, to kind of put it that way. So Keppi, which stands for KEKO Innovation and Experimentation Platform, is basically a place where the startups can meet in when they are developing their solutions, so that one company can bring sensors, then we can bring in an AI company that may be, or several AI companies that kind of take that sensor data forward, and then we can again bring maybe different kind of user interface or end user application companies who are utilizing the same data to cater towards different kinds of end users, whether they are, like said, tenants, facility managers, building owners, or something like that. So we call it layered innovation, which means that it's not just an end-to-end package, but you can innovate across the whole stack in different layers, and thus much faster, much more richer, and eventually go towards this kind of a platform economy and business model.
And one of the identifiers was in ecosystem engagement, was one identifier of ecosystem formation. So the engagement played a huge part here. What lessons did you learn from this ecosystem engagement?
Yeah, this is my favorite topic, so I could speak a lot about. And Tuuli is smiling because she knows I'm talking about this a lot. So basically. Traditionally, we've thought about developers or application partners or kind of technical partners as just developers. So we basically say, here's an API, go do something with it. But if we think that in the future, we can kind of say that the world is becoming programmable, meaning all the things will become smart, which means they will have APIs and different ways of interacting with your buildings and systems inside the building. So we basically need to treat the developers the same way as we kind of treat the end user. So we need to understand their pain points, their motivations. Why would they join your ecosystem? Because if this becomes like a critical success factor or key kind of competitive differentiator, if you can engage or if you cannot engage in a deep and rich manner with the developers, it can have a really, really huge impact for your business in the future if you are operating in a platform business in kind of way. So I think for us, the key learning has been that you really need to not only think them as technical people, you need to think about them as people who have their own ambitions, own pain points, and so forth, and make sure that they feel good about joining your ecosystem. Because if you don't, there's tens of other ecosystems and really strong competitors out there who will grab their mind, and then you lose them.
Maybe we should talk about kind of developer experience.
We are actually using that word heavily. Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Brilliant.
Tuuli. Let's move on to you here. We haven't seen Nokia in the real estate sector yet. So what were the biggest lessons from this about future networks?
Let's first recap what is Nokia. What we do, we create the technology to help the world act together. And Gekko is basically a mini world. And smart buildings can be also seen mini worlds. So it's good to also know that we use mobile phone fluently, smartphones that run on 4G, maybe already on 5G. But it's been a long journey to take that good stuff out, package it in a way that also the industries outside of telco and other things that us consumers will benefit from the technology. So the good enough connectivity and the big topic in my world and in my work life is this private wireless. So truly having a private, dedicated, super reliable connectivity network that could, for example, in Gekko context, serve not only us hanging around at the office in a shopping center, but all the actors that make a building smart, meaning the actors and operators that benefit from the fact that you can digitalize anything. So in our slogan and in reality that we are moving towards with ecosystems like Gekko, there is no green without digital. And it's about digital transformation, and Gekko brings it to smart building domain, but we work really, really hard, have business ongoing on the industries like manufacturing or mining or energy. Think about wind parks, airports, like ecosystems that benefit from super reliable private wireless. And Gekko for us was to window that, hey, what about smart building domain? What can we learn? And no one is anything alone. And that's why I love that that's been truly an ecosystem activity.
So what kind of solutions can we expect in the future?
Yeah, and that's of course a question that goes to all of us. If I think about and a bit also reflecting to the way that Gekko and all the use cases and user stories and actors and operators that benefit from Gekko, we of course thought about the consumers, all of us, but at the same time, for us, Nokia, it was to build on those use cases that were also actually in that video that today was, by the way, world premiere for this Maria video. So I'm very proud that we could show it to you guys and to you guys for the first time. So not in YouTube before later today. So I think about use cases where, for example, robots carrying a camera for security purposes, maybe the next generation cleaning robots, they really, really benefit and need good enough connectivity. You can't, all cameras feeding so much data out that your normal Wi-Fi network is totally blocked. So that type of fairly tangible things where we are only moving, but we are moving now.
And when we're moving to smart cities, finally here to you, Tuuli, which cases do you have internal network versus external network or open network solutions?
Yeah, like I said, that we create the technology to help the world act together. So both are very important. Maybe my own business is now dedicated for these, maybe the closed, private, not indoor, but closed, reliable private networks. But of course, 5G, it's an enabler. 5G plays a role. Nokia alone is not going to digitalize the whole world. Nokia alone is not going to digitalize any building. But we have a key ingredient, and it comes from what we really know the best in the world, and it's about connecting anything, not only anyone.
Well said. And fourth, last but not least, we're going to highlight the shared spaces and communities. Anders, you have launched the Mercury Plus concept, which enables space and resource efficiency. How about that?
Yeah, so actually this week has been an amazing week for us at YIT, and kind of truly now we're taking the learnings we've had from these 2 years at KEKO and we put it into practice. So just this morning, my colleague Juho Siitonen announced to the world that now we will be launching our smart building platform, meaning that every building that we build henceforth will have APIs. So all the data that the building produces, what the inhabitants of that building, the users of that building, all that will be available as an API. So really taking the learnings from the KEPI, how to work with the developers, how to work with the ecosystem. And Mercury Vallila has been for us also this kind of living lab, both learning from what does the global pandemic, how has that affected how we do work, how work will be organized in the future, and also these changing business models. So what we've learned is that going forward, companies will want some type of flexibility in terms of how they use office space. So we will be working from home, we will be working from the office, and that will be a kind of a fluid mix. And kind of all that kind of brings together the importance of having good user experiences, having high quality services. We don't want to go back to a bad office. and that's kind of why we have created this Mercury concept to kind of enable you to also work remotely in a safe, really good indoor air quality environment while having these kind of self-learning and user-centric services. So for us, kind of KEKO has been an amazing journey, and we have now been able to take that into real practice. So all our future customers will actually benefit from the work that we've done together over the past 2 years. So super excited.
Okay, so you mentioned the word future. So what can we expect from shared spaces and communities in the future?
Right, so I talked a lot about kind of the data and the data that the building produces, everything from the HVAC systems to different type of presence sensors to thermostats and so on. What we see more and more, and Tuuli talked about robots, is that AI, robots, different types of sensors, kind of augmented reality, all of the data formats will come together in some kind of standardized APIs where different users of the building, be it then the facility management, being the building owner or the end users, they can then kind of utilize this data and get different kinds of insights, tips, tricks, whatever they need. And I think maybe the big thing that is now driving this is ESG. So we see that kind of building investors, building owners, they want to optimize the whole life cycle of the building in terms of energy usage, in terms of space optimization, in terms of cost optimization. We want to reduce waste, and we want to make sure that our buildings going forward, they are carbon efficient or carbon neutral.
All right. Very exhaustive answer. Thank you. I'm going to throw one out there and we can grab it on your way here. So what would be your tips when you want to start a platform economy? Grab it and talk about it.
No, I grab it. It's a crazy, yeah. big question. I would rather say that don't think about first picking the economy. Think what Arto was saying or speaking earlier this morning. So what I've loved in KEKO context is that we have tried to keep, okay, we were 7 founding members, and then we have had great companies around us joining and contributing to this and building this from 7 to an ecosystem, has been that we have stayed as concrete as possible. And so if you ask that, what does it take to build platform economy, rather, hey, how do you get value out of an ecosystem utilizing the platform, maybe platform economy principles, or at least having even a platform to hook on and build on. So the question is too big, but we have taken the steps to get there. That was a quick answer from me, but now...
So I would say always start with the user. So there has to be a kind of a user problem that you need to solve. Like we said, we've identified kind of 200 use cases. We boiled them down to 20 things that we have actually kind of implemented in KEKO. And I think that the whole idea is that you can't make a platform if there isn't a problem to actually solve. And then if you really solve that well for users, they will come.
If you solve it, they will come. It's like a reference from this movie.
Absolutely. And I think that in many businesses, you can basically go it step by step. So first you start identifying those user problems, and then you can see that, okay, certain parts start to repeat from one customer to another. And then you can say, okay, maybe that repeating part is actually worth converting into a platform. And then you obviously always have some maybe customer-specific things on top, but this is the way at least to get started, instead of saying that, okay, let's spend 5 years and building a platform, and then only after 5 years that you find out that you actually build the wrong platform. So this is a way of working customer-driven, step by step.
Startup thinking.
Yes.
Very lean. Time is running. We got, I think we got 4 minutes left. So I'm gonna throw one. Everyone has to say something on this one. How will KEKO change the world? Let's go here.
Okay, I think that we have started something that will make people happier in the future. So all people in all of those roles that has been mentioned, I see that we will impact on their daily duties and their way of living.
Very good.
Positively, yes.
All right, so maybe I'm sticking with my developer experience. So I hope that all the companies who are developing APIs will take this more seriously and not only think it as a technical problem. So that's my highlight.
Yeah, let me pick also something as such simple. Naturally, KEKO journey we are early, we've gone far further in 2 years where we started from taking the correct approach, really truly work together. I think that the slogan that we set up as when we were defining what KEKO is, how do we look like, what do we want to be, was that we want to make every building smart. That's how KEKO is going to change the world.
Very concretely, I think we set one of the goals that we want to make a kind of a global standard for smart buildings. We have actually done that. So together with our Swedish colleagues, this kind of idea that came out of Keppi to actually standardize the APIs, the ontology behind it in something called Real Estate Core. Now this ontology or the standard for the APIs has now been globally adopted by Microsoft in their Azure Digital Twin product, meaning that what we have done together, what we have made here in the Nordics, this has become the global standard. I think we can be pretty excited about that.
I think that's all we have to cover. Fantastic discussion. Thank you everyone, Maria, JP, Tuuli, and Anders. Rakkaalla lapsella monta nimeä, as you say in Finnish. But before we move on, we're going to look at another accomplishment from the KEKO construction site. So roll the tape.
Tervetuloa maailman älykkäimmälle rakennustyömaalle.
Tiedon saanti on ongelma rakennusalalla.
Jokainen työmaa on oma yksilönsä ja haasteena on tuotannon tehokkuuden saavuttaminen ja useiden alihankkijoiden töiden yhteensovittaminen.
Perinteisesti sitä tietoa on työmaalla, mutta ei juurikaan kellään muulla.
No, yleensä kuvitellaan, että rakennustyömaalla ei tämmöitä haluta käyttää, mutta me ollaan nyt itse testattu tässä esimerkiksi 3D-mallin käyttöä ja onnistuu tosi hienosti.
KEKO-plattaa hyödynnetään tietolähteenä. Pyritään identifioimaan hukka per työalue, per tehtävä, ja sitten syntyy ratkaisuvaihtoehdot, millä se hukka saadaan poistettua.
Nopea, luotettava, älykäs. Siinä on mahdollisuus pustuvideoihin, helppo pitää yhteyttä kaikkiin toimijoihin työmaalla ja työmaan ulkopuolella.
Siitä on mun oman työn kannalta paljonkin hyötyä, kun aikataulut tuppaa rakennuksilla tiivistymään, niin mulle jää enemmän aikaa hoitaa omia töitäni ja keskittyä oikeisiin asioihin, kun kaikki ylimääräinen ravoaminen jää pois. Kohteita valmistuu nopeammin ja turvallisemmin ja edullisemmin.
Tehokkuus paranee, että tavarat on oikeissa paikoissa oikeaan aikaan. Työmaasta ei synny varastoa.
Tuottavuuden parantumisesta on saatu merkittäviä tuloksia. Jopa 50% läpimenoajat ovat parantuneet.
Me ollaan nyt päästy testaamaan tätä pilottia ja todettu tämä toimivaksi. En näe mitään syytä, miksei tämä toimisi isommallakin rakennustyömaalla.
The next keynote comes from cybersecurity company Netox. Markku Korkiakoski, Director of Cybersecurity, has promised to tell us more about the results achieved at Gekko from the cybersecurity point of view. So Markku, I look forward to hearing a lot of you from the cybersecurity point of view. Welcome on stage.
Thank you, Tommy. Great to be here. This is the final Gekko event, the Gekko Now, second one of these. Now the fun stuff, the cybersecurity. Usually it's not the fun stuff, but it's the mandatory evil in all the development what we do in digital domain. How does this work? The title of my presentation is on the cybersecurity achievements or investigations we've done in the Gekko. We'll focus slightly also on the terminology. What is smart city, what is smart building, and why we are doing this. Smart city, in practice it means that we put IoT, we put sensors, some data collectors, something smart in the built environment, and then we collect the data. We collect the data, we use the data, and loop it back so that we can control things. It enables many, many things. Not just in the buildings, it enables in the traffic, it enables in the harbor, and all the new businesses. We don't know those new businesses yet, but as soon as we have the data, we can use and utilize those. Smart building is part of this. And in Gekko, we've been focusing more on the smart building part in different phases of this. Construction, the operational phase, and the life cycle throughout the smart building. Smart building in traditional domain focuses on those items we have in the building infrastructure. But it needs to be also more. The cyber, or the security in the building context, usually handles the security systems inside the building. In Gekko, we've expanded and enhanced this focus to be more broadly on the cybersecurity. And why we are doing this? Because we like the business. And I've said this many, many times before. I love the internet because I can Google any large figures and use those in my presentations. Like in this case, 3.5 trillion, and that's the global market for the smart cities. I did found also figures from 800 billion to 1.5 trillion to 2.5 trillion. In any case, it's a large figure. And what's in common with all of these is growing fast. It's a really, really fast growth in all the segments in the smart cities. Saudi Arabia is investing 500 billion to smart city. And that's public information, it's ongoing. So 3.5 may not be that far out. And then if we move into the Gekko, and on this slide actually I should have all the key players, because the cybersecurity, as with all the things in smart building and smart cities, it's about collaboration, it's about building the common understanding, building the opportunity through this development. We identify new things through exploring new ideas. We've spent most of the time in building the holistic cybersecurity understanding. And for us, as Netox, because this is not our traditional domain, the building industry or construction industry, it took a lot to actually understand and gain the understanding of what is happening inside this domain. There's 4 key learnings. The security by design or secure by design, how you want to define that one. It's a hype term. We use that commonly in the security domain. Everything needs to build in. We need to understand from the beginning that what kind of frameworks, what kind of security needs to be there. But this has been a bit different because in a way, the Gekko has opened new ideas, and I dare to say this, to all of us. And the security in smart building, in smart city, is hugely complex area. We create new, for example, in Marja 01, where we are now, this is an old building. So we need to create new opportunities in an old building. We can define new buildings, new interfaces, new data sources. And we need to also understand the life cycle. We can add those data points. We can add new systems. It's a complex environment. But the security needs to be there from the beginning. It cannot be added later on that, hey, we'll build something and then we cover it nicely with the security. Not realistic. So what we've done, we managed to be the annoying partner to keep pointing out those little things that, hey, we need to take care of the privacy, which is the next main takeaway. Privacy by design. And with all the data that we collect from different sources, the privacy is also through regulation needs to be taken into account. And regulation, even though we don't necessarily collect personal data, that data collected from different sources can become a personal data. It can be affected by the regulation. If not now, then maybe in the future. And all the systems that collect the data needs to also comply with the regulation. Data integrity. This is one of the most difficult topics because this means that the data we collect and when we loop that back into the system, we need to take into account the integrity of the data. There's a saying that data is the new oil. And as with the oil, it's not just positive things. Today, oil is nearly not a positive thing, but it used to be. We didn't really understand all the drawbacks that oil had. Data has the same thing. When we use data to control system, it can be also used in not a positive way. And last but not least, the life cycle management. We are used to life cycle of our computers, of our laptops, of our smart health devices, 2 to 3 years. The life cycle of building is a bit longer than that. So it means that we have different type of devices, different ages, different stages, different APIs, different platforms in the system. And even though those are, or most likely can be built as a secure from the beginning, in 5 or 10 years lifespan, these things changes. So we need to be able to update everything. And this goes back to that secure by design thinking. So you need to find out all the key players as we have in Gekko. And I believe that we can truly change the world. But it can be only changed together. And that's I would say, the most important takeaway that we have. And that's not really a fully secure takeaway or related to cybersecurity. The collaboration in this kind of complex area, in this kind of ecosystem, that's the mandatory that we need to have. Security comes throughout that or along with that collaboration process. So, with that, final words. If you need to find only one thing when you start building your smart environment, try to find the right partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Markku. It seems that the future is in good hands with help of your cybersecurity.
I usually have digital hands in my presentation, so yes, I would say. Thank you.
Do you feel naked with nothing in your
Yeah,
hands?
I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to be here. Oh, slide away. Slide away.
I'm just doing what I'm told. But the last speech will come from Caverion's project manager for this project, Tiia Pirttimaa, Caverion's KEKO business and project manager, and she has promised to wrap up today's discussions, help focus our attention towards future business opportunities and value creation. So warm welcome, last but not least, Tiia Pirttimaa. Welcome.
So thanks, Tommy. It's time to wrap up today's discussion by looking the future and tomorrow's value creation. The reason why I use them tomorrow is because rapid speed of the technical development, and as we at Caverion have focused on existing building during the KEKO project, this keynote will focus operational phase of the life cycle. We have heard several speeches and comments about the future needs, how smart buildings should be able to create better user experience, inform occupants, optimize resource efficiency, be secure, be flexible in energy use and storage, and operate reliability, and be extremely flexible. Because time to go through all of these needs is limited, let's focus about the extreme flexibility. But what does extreme flexibility mean in practice? How should it be understood? And how we can find out, is the building extreme flexible or its occupants? One simple example based on this image. Imagine that you are a resident in the urban area where the building are close to each other and building has automatic blinds that close itself when you need the privacy, maybe watching Netflix or sun shining direct to your home. In this case, the building envelope system can be considered to extreme flexible. But if you have to change the position by yourself, you are extreme flexible. So if we look at offices and extreme flexible in this context, transparency, like in this picture, starting to be familiar for everyone. We have a hot seats, we have flexible desk, we have right resource for user at the right time. Yes, this is the good foundation for the future needs, but this is not enough. And why? Because we can still change the condition of the facilities according to own needs. For example, as in this picture, we have typically set the temperature set points and range of the BMS system, a temperature that is the perfect for all of our needs, where we are most productive. Can you imagine? Perfect situation. But if we look at from people's perspective, like Anu mentioned it, more than 90% of buildings' net present value is based on the people's well-being, retention, and productivity. To the factors that create and generate your turnover, value, and innovation. If we combine that with the fact that people's experience of the same temperature can vary 6 degrees, it can see that one perfect condition does not exist. And why? If you think about that, you have 2 friends. One is super skinny and other one have a lot of muscles. So it's easy to understand that situation. So even the experience of the same one individual in one day can vary significantly, depend on how tired you are. Did you just come from the lunch? What task is underway? Are you reading, writing, or workshopping with your colleagues? So if we ask the feedback from users, analysis could look like that. So could we develop a BMS system or lightning system or other mass technologies that learn and adapt to own needs based on the feedback, experience, and individual needs? Technology, we are sure moving to that direction, and it's a clear step toward autonomous buildings. But maybe the most challenging question is that how we understand value and impact of those solutions on cash flow perspective and present value, and of course payback time. During the Gekko project, we have in Caverion and VTT and other Gekko members to use VTT city tunnel tool to study value and relationship of these solutions and difficult to measure factors. For example, if you think about the retention, how you can measure that. So if we use what-if analysis, I mean, what happens if we don't do nothing? How much competitive advance we are willing to give to other players in the market? If you come back to that 19% of the building's net present value come from your peoples. So, however, without the measurable factors, you can understand the value. So finally, I want to leave with you the idea that building is not smart if it doesn't make your people's activity and use of the resource smarter. But the question is that how we could reliably measure its value and change our understanding of return on investment and true value creation and smart solutions. Thanks.
I'm gonna come up on the stage. All right, thank you, Tia. That was good wrap up of Gekko project. If you have any questions about Gekko, feel free to address us in the website, for example, kekoecosystems.com or kekoecosystem.com. Sorry about that. And now it's time to end it for today, dear Gekko friends. I want to thank the panelists, the speakers, or everyone online watching this event. So send the questions to us in kekoecosystem.com. And now, thank you for being part of the ecosystem. It's time to leave for today. Goodbye. Have a nice end of the week.